This weekend I found out my mom is not a normal mother and is a narcissist or maybe a full-blown sociopath. For you to understand the full ramifications of what she has told me, I will go into my backstory. My mom, me and grandparents all lived together until I was 6. My granddad is my mom's stepdad. However, he was always family to me and I never considered him as a step-grandparent. When my mom was 30, she had me. My dad was never in the picture. I was told he was a married man who my mom was seeing. One day he turned around and said he didn't want to see her anymore and wanted to try and make the relationship with his wife work for the sake of his kids. He vanished and mom never saw him again, and soon after mom found out she was pregnant. She decided that she wouldn't tell her parents the guy's name, and wouldn't tell him unless he called her, as it wasn't her place to destroy a family, and refused to put a name on the birth certificate. My grandparents helped her through the pregnancy. When I was 5, my mom met Chris, my stepdad, and we moved into a separate house. Chris has his quirks. He was nice, but didn't want to be a dad yet. My mom changed all her parenting ideals to match his strictness, an odd choice to do for someone who doesn't want kids. Okay, on to the issue at hand. With the birth of my son, I started to wonder who my dad is, more so I could be aware of any possible medical conditions than having a relationship with him. I asked my mom last year and got the same answer as usual. Married man, no pictures or number this time. I so started looking into him. No record of his name in the school. Mom said she met him. The age didn't line up with how long people are at school for, so she got me an ancestry kit. Imagine my surprise when a member of my grandfather's family popped up on there. So last weekend I confronted my mom, who needed a few days to remember, and this weekend, I got the results of this. And my grandfather is my father. The story my mom gave was so crazy, I can't accept it. But we'll type it here. She was deeply depressed as she didn't have children, was abused by her granddad, her actual dad abandoned her, and all relationships were not healthy. Her type was married men, so her stepdad, my granddad/dad, was the first nice person in her life, and they became so close friends that people would joke they were having an affair, but it was never like that. One drunken night out, she opened up to my granddad about why she was depressed. She wanted a baby and asked him to help her with this and gave him a pot. He left a deposit, went downstairs, and immediately realized this was insane, so asked her to destroy the sample. She said she would but didn't, and used it anyway, claiming they never had sex ever. Then a week later, the married man she was seeing, the same one we can find no record of, had a condom split, so she presumed it was him, and my granddad/dad never suspected a thing. Now, the DNA lines up that my granddad is my dad. But I don't know what to do with the information or where my head is at, and I would really appreciate any advice on what you think my next steps should be. A few of my scattered thoughts. 1. My mom must be an utter sociopath. Not only does she do that with her stepdad, in her early years she actively convinced my grandparents to move in with her while raising his child and lying, if not having an affair, and if the story is true, she must have had a suspicion I could have been his and just lied. 2. How could a person with feelings and emotions do that to their own mother? Followed by letting this lady look after her/her affair child while she goes through cancer. My nan goes over monthly to check on her. If anyone can lie to her entire family like this and rub their faces in it like this, I can't see her as someone with feelings, and I don't trust her at all. Even her husband doesn't know about this. Heck, while she met up with me to tell me this, she told her husband she was going to see my son. Her lies never end. 3. While I never realized how crazy my mom is, I knew she was a little nutty. My granddad, however, is a different matter. He has always been there. My rock when I was younger and dealing with thinking my mom would die before I hit 16. He is always so loving to his wife that the person I thought he was just wouldn't do this. But mom's story is so disgusting and crazy. Why would she lie? But as he is so sensible, why wasn't the advice go to a sperm donor or bar crawl, dress up, buy a guy a few drinks and don't use protection? 4. Finally, what do I do with this information? I can't face my family knowing the whole close-knit dynamic is built on a lie. I'm tempted to tell everyone, but my grandma is a saint, and I can't imagine telling an 83-year-old your husband and daughter have stabbed you in the back, even though you spent your entire life looking after the woman your husband was cheating on you with and their affair baby. I think at this stage of her life it may kill her. She has had such a hard life and just doesn't deserve to look back and see that every second of her kindness was wasted. If I could tell the world while protecting her, I would. But I don't think it's right my mom gets to walk away from this scot-free, and I think it's only right that my granddad should be told, if he doesn't already know. Mom says he doesn't, but how can I believe all of this? If I tell him without mom talking to him, then I have the best chance of the real story. However, I rarely see him without my grandma, and I can pretty much work the real story out, and I can't help but feel this isn't my mess to clean up. My mom should tell him, and if she says I told him this story I will know it's an outright lie. So, my head is a mess, and my so is too involved in wanting to protect me, so I could really use some impartial advice on what you guys think I should do. I want what's best for me, my so, my kid, and my grandma. Update 1, March 30th, 2023. Okay, it's been a few days and the shock has settled somewhat. I read everyone's replies and tried to answer them all, but it has been a busy few days. Original post is here for those who didn't see it. The 3 consistent pieces of advice were to get therapy, that my anger seems to be totally directed at my mom and none towards my dad/granddad, and to maybe consider that my granddad has groomed her from a young age. I want to assure everyone that all your comments were listened to. I will correct that it wasn't that I wasn't angry at him, but the shock of that bit hit harder. My mom and I always had a turbulent relationship. He, however, was my rock for my entire life, and this was so out of left field and unlike the man I knew, that it took me a little longer to realize that this could very well be a form of grooming. I moved the situation forward by texting my mom my feelings. To shorten a very long text, it boiled down to 2 main points. 1. I don't believe your story, you need to tell me what happened. Was this an affair? Was it something more sinister? 2. You need to tell my granddad/dad this. My mom answer was very short. She didn't mention my feeling or ask how I was once, but told me she wouldn't speak to me about this again. That she was not groomed and this was her idea. She isn't sorry and it's my fault. I'm hurt as my investigation has forced her to tell the story. She will tell my granddad. The next day my granddad called me immediately. He sounded as I felt shocked, confused, etc. My mom just said I'm not as shocked as I thought I would be. He told me his version, with 2 key differences. That it wasn't a deposit on the side, but mom had pre-bought a kit that allowed artificial insemination, which has just as likely a chance of working as sex itself. He was convinced by her it was a good idea. He can't remember every argument, as it was 33 years ago, but the 2 that sticks out are you are the person I am closest to, and I trust you, and if I needed a kidney, you would give me that without hesitation. This conversation along with a few beers meant he went along with it. However, after he did it he realized what an utter mistake this was and told my mom this is a mistake, let's not do this. Bin it and let's not talk of it again as nothing happened. Mom agreed, said she would bin his sample and he left for home thinking he avoided the biggest mistake of his life. Mom of course did not destroy it as she said and used it. In the eyes of my country's law this is sexual assault. In my last post, I mentioned my mom was molested by her granddad and abandoned quite publicly by her birth father. Something I didn't mention against my granddad, is he also had a rough childhood. His mother died when young and his stepmom was abusive. This has led him to forgive any mistakes his family makes and means family comes first without exception and to a fault. Because he views my mom as his daughter, he feels the villain of the piece as the understanding of mental health wasn't there. I didn't realize how deep her depression was and I regret not telling her to see a therapist and that he failed her massively for not doing so. He is also thinking of telling his wife immediately but thinks I should have a say in that choice. He empathized with how I was feeling too, something my mom did not. I want to believe him, however as I said earlier in this post, it's this relationship that will impact me more in losing. So spoke to my partner for outsider's opinion as she of course knows these people traits and flaws. She agrees that this sounds plausible in an insane situation. My granddad's flaw in putting family first. My mom's manipulative and lying nature, while her story not lining up completely. There could always be the chance they had an affair or drunken one-night stand that neither will admit to. But nothing has ever made my partner or me feel there was any kind of spark or awkwardness between them to suggest this. My mom also always spins stories to make her look like a saint. The easy option would be to say this was grooming or assault as an easy out. Why make up this completely unbelievable lie as another option? A few people may wonder if my mom is that good at manipulation. There are many small instances but let me just say the biggest. She once convinced my grandma and granddad to buy a house with her that none of them could afford on their own outside of their hometown. A couple of years later, she moved out. When I was younger my grandma said, you know how convincing your mom can be and it's only by piecing this together when I was older, when she has tried to convince me with some very skewed point of view or outright lies that made me realize that how she communicates isn't normal, but manipulation. So, next steps my granddad wants all 3 of us to meet up either weekend and discuss if we tell the wider family. He is willing to tell his wife if that's what everyone wants, even knowing it will destroy his marriage. My mom hasn't contacted me since, so I don't know if she will even come. If she does come to this meeting, I will be using this as an opportunity to confirm if my mom did withdraw consent when we are all there. If she does admit this, then I am inclined to believe this crazy story is true and they were both monumentally stupid and my mom has stabbed him in the back. The shock from my granddad is real, but also our relationship was real, and we were both in the dark. Meaning I can see a way of forging our relationship ahead. My mom, however, I do not trust, and if she admits to this, will also be admitting to sexual assault. I don't imagine her admitting this usually, but she has admitted thus far, only with no other options due to an ancestry test, with that relationship. I don't know. I don't trust her. But then she is clearly an old lady with cancer with very deep-seated mental problems. The old relationship will always be dead, but should I set new boundaries and try and form a new relationship with this woman, or just cut contact due to lack of trust? This I don't know yet. I'll also be setting my boundaries or as far as the wider family goes. My granddad has stated I should get a say in whether my grandma is told. This is something I don't know the morally right thing to do. She is 83 years old, and this will destroy her. And will she even believe this crazy story? Probably not, as she was also abused by her father. So much abuse in my family has been uncovered with this, it's so sad. But then if my granddad was sexually abused, is this fair to destroy his marriage? On the flip side, is it right to lie about something this big? This is a decision I can't make, for my own mental health, and ultimately it is not my mistake to clean up after. So, I will be using this meeting to tell them they need to choose between them what the next steps are. My mom has effortlessly kept this lie from everyone in her life, so that will clearly be her choice. But my granddad, will he be able to lie to his wife with this? I don't know. I will tell them that they need to choose, and I will go along with that decision. But if they change their mind, they need to tell me so I can prepare for any fallout. Our meeting will be in a week or two, so I will leave a final update then. For now, I wanted to thank everyone who reached out and gave advice. I will be getting to a therapist soon, so I can make a better informed decision and can make a clearer choice for what's better for me so and child. Someone said I should marry my missus as she has needed to put up with the brunt of my mom's insanity for 4+ years. To those I will say you are right. She is absolutely amazing, and we have been engaged for a while. But COVID, a pregnancy which led to buying a house and our first baby has put the delayed an actual wedding. But she truly is the best and been a rock throughout all of this. Update 2, May 4th, 2023. It's been a few weeks, and a lot has happened, so as I got such good advice from you guys, I thought I would tell you what happened up until now, and then I won't update any further. Before I continue, I feel I should clarify a comment in my older post. The title said my mom went from normal to narcissist in an hour. She has always been a narcissist. Often narcissists have a golden child and a scapegoat. I was the golden child, with no siblings to be a scapegoat. Enter my fiancé and a scapegoat was found. In the last 8 years her nature has become more and more obvious to me the meaner she treated my fiancé, and me being blind to it failed to defend my partner when I should have, genuinely believing it was my mom's poor communication skills, which I have been aware of for many years. Anyway, on with the update. My mom, granddad and I sat down on Good Friday. My mom collaborated my granddad's story, and she had stolen his sperm. I took on board what people said about her being abused for years, and so I decided to steer away from the act itself. It will always be in my mind that they maybe had an affair, which would mean she was groomed, as the truth they have presented is so bizarre, but it was over 30 years ago and without it I wouldn't be here and it's what they both are saying is true. So, I turned the conversation into how we move forward. Originally, I wasn't going to comment on if we should tell anyone or not as it's their mess. But I know that my mom would argue for keeping it quiet, which she did, and not having an opinion when I know the outcome felt the same as having an opinion on it. So when they asked what I wanted to do, the deciding factor came down to a friend's advice she gave me. Will telling your grandma help you in any way? And no, it wouldn't. So, I agreed to keep it quiet. My mom then accidentally told me she had lied to my stepdad and told him I was preventing her from seeing my kid, which I thought was really not okay. I am angry with her for a justifiable reason and am trying to get our relationship to be somewhat salvaged, despite having no trust for her, and she's blaming me for this. So told her she needs to tell her husband the real reason I haven't been as close. After this conversation, I had 3 days off work and wanted a bit of time and space to put it behind me, book some therapy, and spend time with my son and kid. Which never happened. That night, somebody tried to reverse a car through my neighbor's house in revenge of what the police told us was a petty squabble, and the neighbors got a rifle, guns are super rare in the UK, and shot at them. Of course, the police were called by numerous people on the street, and thank the gods my child slept through it. By my so and I were nervous wrecks for a long time after. So goodbye relaxing weekend and thanks for ruining Easter. After making sure my family was safe, I picked this family drama back up and I met my mom and stepdad last weekend. This was to set clear boundaries in the relationship going forward. My trust in her is broken, and honestly, I don't think she has a long enough life left to rebuild it completely, due to cancer, but my relationship is separate from her and my son's relationship, who loves his nana and has been kept separate from all of this. I feel very distant from my close-knit family these days, but I guess that's what happens when they lie to you your whole life. My mom has given me an attempt at an apology, however weak. I have told her my feelings, which haven't been understood, and I have set new boundaries, which will probably be ignored, so I will keep my so's mother's advice to heart. If you can offer a relationship to just one person, knowing you will get nothing back, you will have led a good life then. Finally, as of today my so and I can announce she has been pregnant throughout all this ST storm, and due to the extra stresses, we have been super nervous that the baby was okay. But in the first scan baby was moving around, with a strong healthy heartbeat. Thank you again everyone for the help and advice you gave me. Update 3, June 22, 2023. The full details are in my post history, so I'll try and be brief here. My mom lied about my dad's identity my whole life, and I recently found out she sexually assaulted her stepfather, who I have always seen as my granddad, is actually my father. She lied to me my whole life and has put me in the awful situation of not being able to tell anyone, as it will kill my grandma, who is a saint and has spent her whole looking after and caring for my mom and granddad. Dad and at 86 does not deserve this news and rip my family apart. I know I need therapy. I just have a toddler, a pregnant so no time or money. All of this, I could forgive. It's fucked up, but I guess without it I wouldn't be here, neither would my kid. What has really hurt me through this is the lying to others as to why I have been a little different. She told her husband I was blocking her from seeing her grandkid, or blaming me for being upset, her lack of empathy or understanding. Everything she has said, is just showing me she does not understand why I am upset. My so has been a goddamn rock, and although she isn't a huge fan of my mother, has tried to remain impartial and polite as I have, anyway, with a brief overview of a very messed up problem. On to my question. Despite this last year, my mom and me were quite close. Not the best at communicating, but we used to chat every few days. My mom has had cancer since I was 15. She was given a year and I am now 31. It's come back and I don't think she is long. She is now using a wheelchair. I want her to have as much time with her grandkid before she goes, and both me and my partner want to be able to bury the hatchet so when she passes we can say we tried our best and we won't feel any regrets when our shock of all of everything passes. That's our plan, but when either of us see her or speak to her we just feel angry at the past wrongs, the new ones, the shock, everything. And every friend we ask who knows the full story just says they would refuse to see her or be unable to forgive her. And I get it. But I could really use some advice on how to forgive so future me doesn't feel guilty when she is dead in a few months. Anyone got any help? New update, January 25, 2024. After getting no advice on the last post, I figured there would never be an update to share. Throughout most of this, shock was the predominant feeling. Then about 3 weeks ago, all the emotions hit me like a ton of bricks and I really started to struggle. In November my partner gave birth to a beautiful baby. She is tired getting up to feed him, and I didn't have the capacity to ignore her tired shortness and not take it personally. The UK health system is slow, and counseling only started 3 weeks ago, so did not know how to heal, or find forgiveness to anyone, despite my mum being very sick. But last Thursday, something big changed and writing my thoughts down, but after not really knowing the rules of updating on each sub, I thought I would compile the posts together and put the update here. Last week, after seeing how much I was struggling, my so reached out to my mum to tell her how much it was affecting. My mum's reaction was, "Sorry he is hurting, I wish he would talk to me but won't. I don't want to hurt everyone by telling the truth," to which my so replied, "As a mother, I'm sure you don't want to leave this world hurting your son. In not telling everyone you are leaving him the scapegoat and she needs to find a solution." To my surprise this worked and she sat down and told my Nana and her sister her version of the truth. My opinion, as soon as I heard my Nana knew the truth I wrung her and sobbed. However, the truth has lifted a huge mental load from me, and for the first time in nearly a year I can think without a huge cloud over everything. I think this secret was leaving me more and more depressed, and while I was outwardly fine it was taking an even bigger toll that I realized, and shock had saved me in all the last 3 weeks. Now the truth is out and I can function. My biggest issue was I felt like a sleazeball lying, but didn't know if it was the right thing to do. I can revoke my silence, but couldn't take back the truth, so chose inaction until I knew what to do. But I'm not sure I ever would have figured that out. The other thoughts were, if I waited for my mum to pass away, is it fair sharing this with her sister who then has to sit with that knowledge without the opportunity to ask any questions for herself? I know I spoke in circles with friends, my partner, and did the best I could, so I won't beat myself up too much. But I felt a physically weight lift from my shoulders when I knew the lie was out. I still don't believe their story, however. My mum keeps mentioning she thought my real dad was Robert from school, even though I know he doesn't exist. But at the least, this doesn't affect my identity. My Nana's opinion, my Nana remains a saint. She believed them totally, as she knows how dedicated her husband is to helping his children, and knows how bad my mum's mental health was. She loved her family and is happy for me that I found out my dad and knows he loves me. She is disappointed with her husband for not telling her when he found out a year ago. But is happy that it resulted in me, as she couldn't love me more. She is sad I needed to deal with this while raising a baby, and didn't think it was fair on them to put me through it. I names my baby after her, as she's amazing. My aunt's opinion, my aunt reached out to wish me well and know nothing is affected in our relationship by my parents. She found out yesterday, a little later. She has lost a lot of respect for her sister and stepdad. But knows she loves her family, even if she is disappointed and her trust is shaken. She has criticized that they made me stay silent as it will kill my Nana and thinks that was cowardly and wrong of them. But knows she needs her family, and my mum in her poor health needs her. She has told her children and told them it is up to them if they believe the story or not. So that's the end of it. I have bought a few self-help books, got a therapist who is helping, and just trying to rebuild after a year of hell. My mum probably only had a few months left, but then, she had until I was 17 and I'm 32 now, so we shall see. But with the truth I can at least start forging a small relationship based in truth. However, I doubt it will ever be as strong as it was, just because she doesn't have time to rebuild it to that. Ultimately, what my aunt said really rang true to me. It's a shame, because even if the story is true, nobody will ever believe it. And they will live with that stain on them, forever. Edit for clarity a few comments saying the cancer is fake. Totally understand why, However, she lost 5 inches, her back collapsed and recently needed a catheter putting in. This part isn't faked.